You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
All right, folks, good evening. Sorry about that. The console wasn't responding to me at first. I tried to unmute everything, and it said no. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to be talking right now after all. Anyway, we are live right now on KLRNradio.com. This is the Jim Renick Show. It is just a few minutes past the hour of 10 Eastern. We are watching primary results in a few states, mine included. And so far, the returns are looking to be about like I expected. 788 looks like it's likely going to pass by a pretty good margin, which for those of you who don't know the state question number, that's actually the Legalization of Medical Marijuana Act here in Oklahoma. There is a rumor, and I'm hoping it's only a rumor, that apparently our lame duck about to be out-of-session governor who doesn't really seem to remember what her job is trying to call for a special session should the 788 pass to limit it to basically terminally ill patients only. I don't know enough about how special session works in our state because the Constitution here is confusing AF, if you know what I mean. But I do know that special sessions are a small fortune, and it's going to be stupid. So I really, really hope that doesn't happen. But anyway, so I'm one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson. The other half of the crew, Miss Jen Homestead, is standing here waiting for me to stop talking about Oklahoma politics. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Actually, I think it's good to talk about some of these local things, especially the big ones. I mean, I know for some people in other parts of the country that might not seem like that big of a deal, even with it only being limited to, terminal medical patients. But for a state with the demographics like a state like Oklahoma politically, to even be considering this at this stage before there's still a lot of the country that has not even, put this to a citizen's vote. And then if that citizenry passes it, that's actually a really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal when you stop and think about it. But what's concerning to me is we've had all of this bad publicity about 788, and they're talking about, oh my God, this means that college kids can grow 4 pounds of pot in their dorm, which is not true. It means that anybody for any reason can go to a doctor and get prescribed marijuana, which is not true, because a doctor still has to do their job. You also have to pay for what I consider a pretty expensive license. It's going to be over $200 for a 2-year license to be able to use your own marijuana or actually be able to get it from a dispensary, should you be eligible to have it. So, I mean, but the weirdest thing, and I saw this, and it completely floored me when I saw it, so I checked into it just to be sure. There was a story that was going around that veterinary doctors were going to be able to prescribe medical marijuana for pets so that people could bypass the medical requirements and just use their pet's pot. No.
Considering that lady who got everybody mad at her because she called the police on the little girl selling water bottles without a permit, considering that her livelihood is mostly made up of selling marijuana, products for pets. I mean, maybe it just doesn't seem that far-fetched to most people.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is, most of the stuff that's, as far as, the areas that where they're selling it for pets and this, that, and the other, there's usually in the states where it's more of kind of a recreational thing. But as far as I know, our bill doesn't cover anything about any vets being able to prescribe any type of medicinal marijuana for pets or otherwise. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they still may not be able to prescribe the CBD oil when it's applicable, but most of that doesn't really have any THC in it anyway. So it's kind of a completely different animal. But again, the thing that astounds me is, you're right, we are probably one of the reddest states in the union. All 77 counties went for Romney, McCain, and Trump. All 77 in a 12-year span. And yet we are seriously considering medical marijuana. That's a big step. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a big step in the right direction because, look, guys, we've tried prohibition for years. It doesn't work. We've outlawed everything. And people still get it. The problem that we have is by you telling them they can't have it, you're making them want to have it even more. I know this is taboo now, but I have to tell you guys a secret. My dad and my mom, when they divorced, I used to get to spend summers with my dad. My dad had a standing rule at his house. Once I hit 15, 16 years of age, if I wanted anything to drink, all I had to do was tell him he would go buy it. The only rule is I had to drink it at his house. I had people over twice because he didn't even care if I had friends over as long as their parents were okay with it and as long as everybody agreed to stay the night. I had people over twice. It took all the fun out of it. I didn't drink till I was 21. Because I knew if I was at my dad's house, all I really had to do was, hey, Dad, I want to have a beer. Can you give me some beer? He'd be like, okay, cool. Hey, Dad, I haven't tried this particular brand of whiskey yet. Can you go buy me some? Sure, son. It took all the fun out of it for me. My dad would go to jail for that today, but I have to tell you, it was one of those things where, and my dad was a genius with that stuff, because he found out that one of my friends and I were smoking, and instead of doing the whole, we're going to sit here and you're going to have to smoke 3 packs till you puke thing, he's like, look, here's a pack of cigarettes. You have them for the weekend. Smoke as many of them as you want. If you like it, after that, when you're 18, buy your own. Stop stealing my cigarettes. Again, took all the fun out of it for me, because if he already knows I'm doing it, I'm not getting in any trouble for it. What the hell's the point?
Well, and I think that probably is a little bit more true for, I'm going to go ahead and go out on a sexist limb here and say it's a little bit more true for guys. That kind of like the challenge and the danger and the risk and the, the sneaking around and all that kind of thing. Like, I don't know. Neither was the case for me. I didn't want to piss off my parents, or it wasn't even pissing them off. It was making them upset. I didn't want them to be disappointed. I had so much writing on the line with school and dance and everything else. And almost all of my extracurricular activities, I had taken some sort of oath. We'd signed some sort of pledge to not engage in that kind of activity and like being role models for the school and the community and blah, 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 blah. And it just never seemed that worth it. And I mean, and my parents weren't like prude. And I don't remember feeling like it was like, oh my God, don't you dare ever, alcohol is it wasn't like that at all. Like my dad had beers on, like watching a game on Sunday, and like, it was around. My mom's not much of a drinker. She never has been, never will be. And my grandma was always having a margarita or a glass of white Zin and like whatever. It just was not, it wasn't made a big deal either way, if you know what I mean. Like I think that there was enough talk about it. We were around enough adults drinking responsibly. We were allowed to take a drink here or there, hey, I want to try that. Okay, you can have a sip. I could try their wine. There were a couple times where there was maybe some special occasion or something where we got a glass of wine or a glass of champagne if that was what was being celebrated with. But we were also just so dang busy. So we weren't sitting around very much, having very much free time with our with our friends to get into a lot of like typical teenage trouble. And I think that was probably the most ingenious part of my parents, was get us involved in some activity that would take up all of our time, all of our commitment, all of our, heart, soul, and passion. And we would never care to have to go to a regular party or give a crap about drinking alcohol or smoking pot, because for the most part, it pretty well worked with all 3 of their kids, which is kind of amazing. But like I said, it wasn't like it was never an off-limits, scary, weird thing. I mean, other than obviously for actual legal reasons outside the home. But they just didn't make a big deal out of it either way. And I guess we just never really got all that interested. I certainly knew people that were. I also thought a lot of them did a lot of really stupid things. So, whatever. But I mean, teens are going to teen. They're going to try stuff and they're going to figure out. And like you said, some of them are going to go your route. They're going to be like, what's the big deal? Whether a parent's involved or not, but probably especially if a parent's involved. And then other people are going to go buck wild. And I don't know that there's, a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, the whole thing and the whole reason that even got brought up is, we live in a world now where basically if you want to find something, you're going to be able to find it. It's just really that simple. I mean, you don't believe me? If you have any junior high or high school kids, ask them tomorrow, who's the kid that you could go to right now and get pills? They'll have the answer. Who's the kid that you could go to right now and get pot? They'll have the answer. They don't ask you. You don't get asked about cigarettes or booze anymore because nobody has that stuff. But pills and pot, man, they can get to that all day long because pills pills and pot are the new thing. It's not about booze anymore. It's not about smokes. It's about pills and pot. They know where to find it. I mean, you can ask any kid that goes to a public school that's above the age of 14. If I wanted to get high right now, who would I go see? And they'll give you at least 2 names. That's the world. Yep. That's the world we live in right now. And I knew it when I was in high school 15 years ago. I know.
I mean, I knew exactly who had what and did what and who had the older brother's ID and, all of those kinds of things. We all knew whether you are participating or not. But especially now, I mean, and I think that parents really, I think that there's a lot of naive parents out there and there's a lot of naive adults in general. Like these kids can't get their hands on it if there's some war on drugs. And I am not so, blasé libertarian in the grand scheme of things about all drugs, because I do think that there are different degrees of which there is some necessary regulation, and that has a lot more to do with the actual drug trade than it does, and also violent effects, but still like the drug trade as opposed to the person having the drug. But particularly with things like marijuana, I just cannot be bothered to get worked up about it. I just can't. I mean, and, I live in a place that is pretty lackadaisical about it and its attitude. And most of the cops here, as long as you're not carrying more than what is reasonable for a person's personal use, you're probably going to get a citation. You're not even going to get, you're not going to get arrested for possessing marijuana in the city of Austin, very rarely, and it's got to be quite a bit so that it seems like intent to distribute. But I think that there were a lot of people that I knew when it kind of went to that, kind of like you said about, well, your dad, it kind of sucked the fun out of it. There were quite a few people that I knew that it was like, once it was no longer like, oh my God, hide the weed. It was kind of like, yeah, okay, like they might would partake every now and then, but they weren't like hoarding it like they were before and trying to smoke before every single little event and get high before every movie. It again, kind of, I agree that there's some people where that kind of takes the sting out. So they're kind of like, well, all right. I mean, there's no real risk here. So whatever. So it's not legal in the state of Texas, but it's just the attitude in Austin and some of our municipal laws, have eased up on the severity side of most things involving, minimal amounts of marijuana. So it's just it's not life ruining anymore. Let's put it that way.
I mean,
which is a good and bad thing for teenagers.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is when you really stop and think about it, I mean, so right now pot is illegal in most of the country. But this synthetic thing called spice that is basically a synthetic version of marijuana, where every so often they'll have to change an ingredient, put it back on the shelf in a head shop, smoke shop, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. That basically, and they have to put a label on it that says not fit for human consumption. But as soon as they change an ingredient, it goes right back out on the shelf. I have personal experience, people that I know that were hooked on that stuff because they couldn't get to the actual plant without getting in trouble. And that stuff will kill you. That stuff is 1,000% addictive. When we start seeing designer drugs that are 1,000,000 times worse than the plant itself, and we're over-regulating the plant, and we're using this false narrative that there are zero medical benefits to marijuana. Marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic according to the federal government. For those of you that don't know what a Schedule I narcotic is, that means for the intent of the federal government, the FDA, and everyone else, there is no medicinal benefit to marijuana, period. You can't run studies on it. You can't do tests on it, period, because it's Schedule I. They've already deemed it invalid for any type of medical use or procedure. That's why even Donald Trump, which I think took some wind out of poor old Jeff Sessions' sails the other day, said we really should probably start looking at national marijuana laws, because I'm seeing a lot of things that don't really jibe with what the federal government says about marijuana. And I could just see Jeff Sessions in the corner rocking back and forth slowly, sobbing to himself, my war on drugs is about to come to an end. I don't know what to do. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they do this about marijuana, and then look at opium, and all the things that derive from opium that can also be extremely harmful, but can be extremely helpful. I mean, if anyone has ever undergone, a major surgery, hello, morphine, there's such thing as going too far and being really stupid. And I know that there was a time and place, and there was a lot of ignorance about this kind of thing, particularly about marijuana, and there was kind of a scare about it. But we know more now, so we should do something about how we define it. And I'm not saying, and I am actually very personally against I'm not really that much for the outright recreational use in the way that I think a lot of supporters want it to be. And I know this from, and I'm talking anecdotally from, but it's also from what I read and from what people propose and what they write on the message boards and what they put on Facebook, and, all those things that combine into what a lot of regular marijuana users kind of want out of this deal when they want it to be, legal all across the board. There are a lot of things that don't get taken into account. And as an employer with a lot of young employees who smoke a lot of pot, they think and they hope that by it being legal, and because it's less, of an issue, they think, than alcohol or whatever else, even pain meds. And it's natural, man. It's natural that they're going to be able to do anything and everything they want to do, and they can do it high, and they can be high all the time, like they're taking a cigarette break. And that's where there's got to be, once that kind of comes into play, there have to be some more defined lines, I think, when it's on a grand scale, because it can get really dicey. And as of right now, it's not like we just have breathalyzers like you do for alcohol, where you can tell immediately if someone is impaired. So my ability to be able to act, at my own discretion with an employee, because I know that they definitely are high, and I can't have that. I can't have them doing their job while they are, is going to be an unemployment nightmare. And I'm talking about I'm talking about the actual like actually applying for and being granted unemployment as a welfare tool, not unemployment rates.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I have to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, I think all of it should be legalized, because, again, anybody that wants to find a way to get to it is going to be able to get to it anyway. And I think you would see not only a drop in the crime overall, I think you'd actually see an overall drop in participation, because, again, a good number of the people that wind up getting hooked on drugs, they do it because of the thrill. They do it because, I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do, and it makes me feel good at the same time. And, now I can't put it down. So I think we would see at least a marked decrease in the number of people that actually wind up being addicted to those other substances, because a lot of the stigma would be gone. The same thing has been happening with marijuana, if you really stop and think about it. The stigma about marijuana is gone, which is exactly why I am happy to announce that in the state of Oklahoma, they just passed State Question 788, primarily because the stigma against marijuana is gone. People are actually starting to understand that it does serve a purpose. It involves a lot more than people just wanting to sit down and smoke, sit around, smoke weed, and eat Cheetos. There are reasons that the drug should be allowed to be used. And actually, the only reason I mentioned that was because it just came across my feed. I haven't been able to find their percentages, but if they're announcing it at 9:30, it must have been pretty well a blowout, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was just saying. Last time I looked at it, it was like 70 or 65 to 35% in favor. But I haven't looked at the numbers. I guess I could do that real quick. But yeah, I mean, I understand that I have kind of more of a libertarian view when it comes to drugs. And I have to say, again, most of that is actually, that's a big change for me. Because I used to be the big law and order guy. I really was for a very long time when it came to all this stuff. Until I started seeing the way that it was impacting my own family and my friends. Because there were people that I saw that were doing things that I knew them well enough to know why they were doing them. And it was just one of those things where I'm just watching it, and I'm just like, there's no way that this should be there. I mean, it just doesn't do any good to do the things that we're talking about the government doing.
Well, here's one of my other, kind of reservations about it, and I am much more, if it has to be one or the other, I'd rather it be, if it has to be all out, freaking drug war for another 25 years, or it has to be all legal. I'm very much like it's a no-brainer, all legal. But I just think that there are some things that sometimes the finer points of which don't get discussed. And another thing that rarely gets discussed is how incredibly this will bloat government. That is going to create a whole new set of bureaucracy. So, that's just something else to keep. I just think that there are a lot of things to keep in mind and that kind of need to be talked about and worked out if there was going to be some sort of federal level type initiative before it's just, hoorah, yay, do it, free. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm the first one to tell you that if we're going to really start talking about not only legalization, but maybe even decriminalization, I mean, I'm not even necessarily saying that we have to do full legalization, but I think a lot of this stuff should at least be decriminalized to the point where, and I think that's honestly one of the driving points behind the legislation here that just passed, is we have people that are seriously looking at criminal justice reform, because we have people that got caught with weed that have spent 20, 30 years in jail for having 2 or 3 grams of weed in their possession because of how strict a lot of our laws are here. We are now, thanks to Louisiana passing criminal justice reform within the last few years, Oklahoma is now per capita the largest or the biggest incarcerator of people in the world. We are now number 1 for both men and women. Up until recently, we had been number 1 for women. Louisiana was number 1 for men. With their recent sweeping criminal justice reforms, we have now just passed them. So what Oklahoma is kind of looking at doing is what can we do? We have a for-profit prison system, which has turned out to be a terrible thing. We have all of these people that are being locked up for marijuana, for God's sake. I mean, I've seen people get stronger sentences for a second or third offense with marijuana than I've seen people get for murder. That's a problem with me. That is a huge problem when you're talking about something. I mean, they're not doing anything to hurt anybody else. I'm not even talking about the ones that get caught driving under the influence of marijuana. I'm talking about people that were walking around with it on their person and weren't even going to do anything with it till they got home. Most of the people that do this stuff do it in the privacy of their own home. Another thing that drove me crazy about 788 was oh my God, you're going to have somebody smoking a marijuana cigarette right next to you in a restaurant. No, you're not. It's against state law to light a regular cigarette in the state of Oklahoma in a restaurant. So you're telling me that the law is not going to apply to a marijuana cigarette? Are you nuts?
I really would love some of these people that are just so like hard-nosed about it and everything. I would really love for them to be unknowingly invited to an anti-marijuana convention, we'll call it, in Austin, Texas, that occurs usually in the spring called Reggae Fest, and watch them lose their minds as people are openly smoking bowls and smoking joints in a state park.
Nice. Dude, no, I mean, smoking is so heavily regulated here. Like, I see people all the time violating the rules where I work, because I actually work on what would be considered a state campus. You can't smoke within a certain number of feet of the entire campus. So the same things apply to restaurants, public spaces, all of that. You can't smoke anywhere that it isn't a designated smoking area. And personally, The only place I know of that still really has designated smoking areas are bingo halls and casinos. I don't necessarily mind secondhand smoke if I'm losing my money. I'm just saying.
I mean, if you're going to do that kind of thing, you're signing up for it, right? I mean, you're kind of like, okay, this is where I'm going. Breathe it in. But I also think that, and that's the funny thing, like you said about like state places. I know that, like the University of Texas is a state university. And so it abides by the state rules, which also is like a smoke-free campus and whatever. But like you have 100,000 people that come, 6 times a year during the fall for football games. And these are grown, adults. These are not kids. And they don't exactly abide by those rules. And so it's one of those things, and I think this is kind of what Reggae Fest, I know it's what Reggae Fest is like. It's one of those things where the cops keep the peace for that one weekend or that one day, that game day or whatever. Same thing, like alcohol is not technically allowed on, like open containers are not allowed on the state property. So on university property, but all of the state lots are opened and rented out for tailgates. And I mean, it's just like, a 20 block radius in any direction of people openly drinking on the streets with open containers and walking across the street and next to cops like it's New Orleans. And so I think that, it's one of those things where it's like, keep it in control, only deal with actual issues. And we just we suspend the law for a day. And I think that's kind of what happens with Reggae Fest too. And it's like what happened at my venue when I had Snoop Dogg. I mean, what are the police going to do? Really? Snoop Dogg comes to Austin, Texas for a private show in an intimate setting, and they're going to be like, you can't light a joint on stage. And also, by the way, my boss is going to be like, this is a no smoking building. No, it's not happening. So they just stood there on the perimeter with their backs turned. And, you just pick your battles sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know. I know quite a few cops who probably would have been, hey, Snoop, you want to share? Just saying.
Well, yeah, sure. Especially here in Austin.
So just to I was trying to see if I could get kind of a look at what's going on with the local elections, but I'm not really finding anything. However, I did find one story. Hang on. Open up too many tabs and suddenly I sound like a robot. So
I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah. So this I thought was funny, and it's kind of revolving around the local stuff. We actually made Fox News today here in Oklahoma. Not for a good reason, though. Oklahoma Democrat caught removing congressional opponents' campaign signs ahead of primary.
Wait, say that again?
Oklahoma Democrat caught removing congressional opponents' campaign signs ahead of primary election today.
Like he himself was actually doing it?
It was him doing it, dude. He was like...
Not just like he had staffers out doing it. Like he was doing it.
No, it was him doing it. He was going to these different yards, and the funny thing is these were like the big sturdy signs, so it wasn't like he was just ripping them out of the yard. He was actually taking like the cardboard inserts out, leaving the rest of the signs behind, and was actually caught doing it, and was seen getting into his own personal vehicle and driving away.
You can't make this crap up.
So here's just a bit of the story. An Oklahoma congressional candidate has apologized after he, was caught taking his opponent's campaign signs from a street corner just before the state's primary election today. Tom Guild, who bills himself as a progressive Democrat vying for Oklahoma's 5th congressional district seat, was accused in a fake Facebook post of taking the signs of Kendra Horn, also a Democratic candidate. The Facebook post, which has been shared more than 100 times at the time of this article, included photos of Guild allegedly caught in the act.
That's just embarrassing.
Sometimes in the heat and rush of the campaign, mistakes are made, Guild said in a statement to the Daily Oklahoma. On reflection, removing some of my opponent's signs for any reason was a mistake on my part, for which I sincerely apologize.
Upon reflection, like he didn't know that was wrong from the straight get-go. Upon reflection. Oh, good grief.
The Daily Oklahoman also published security footage cameras which showed Guild walking along a street pulling up Horn's bright turquoise signs. Oh my God. The things that my state makes the news for. I swear.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
But in my defense, at least it was a Democrat. Just saying.
Okay, so guess what else has just happened in another state?
What just happened?
Primary. Mitt Romney has won the Republican nomination in the Utah Senate race. Primary race.
I'm not so sure how I feel about that.
Like, not even just a little. 75%. Yeah. Overwhelmingly won.
Utah, what are you thinking?
They're still pretty beloved there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't see sending a never-Trumper to Senate. And that's basically what Romney is.
But I don't see why not. I mean, you've got a lot of Trumpers in there, so why not have like a never-Trumper to balance it out with on the Republican side? And he's not ruthless. Like, he's not someone, I mean, when he gets in a statesmanship position, he doesn't, just like he met with Trump, like he doesn't act in bad faith or in he's ever the like gentleman's politician. So I mean, I think that there could be a lot worse ones out there if you're going to have someone that's representing a sort of opposing side in the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see your point, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm still just pissed at the response I got after the end of the third debate when I reached out to his staff and was basically told, oh, we decided to take the high road instead of nailing Obama on the lie we blatantly caught him in the second debate. In other words, you rolled over, you bastard. So,
back again when, like I said about the gentleman's politician, we've had a lot of those, which have fared us very well in a lot of ways, but it's also hurt us sometimes because we won't go for the jugular.
Yeah.
But the Republican Party has had a lot more of that type of statesman than the Democratic Party has, which I think is respectable. But again, sometimes that means that they're not actually taking the swing for the nuts. So
this is true. All right, we should probably take a break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. Stay tuned.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Welcome back, folks. This is Jen and Rick. Believe it or not, we're well past the bottom of the hour because we took the break a little bit later than usual. But hey, at least I remembered to take one this week. I've been doing so good with those on co-hosted shows lately. Like, Dan and I went completely commercial-free and over by like 30 minutes the other night. And I was like, how have we been doing this for 90 minutes? It feels like 5. But anyway, so we've been kind of all over the place. Well, I guess not really. We've been talking Oklahoma politics. But I gotta say something, because there's been some interesting developments in the national level, like the Democrats completely coming unhinged and Maxine Waters calling for members of the Trump administration to be called out in public settings and basically just ran out of any place that they're in. But remember, the Democrats are the ones that keep telling us that Trump is the one that's lost all civility. I just want to read you guys something, and I posted this on my Facebook page because I thought it was funny. But at the end of the day, this is pretty close to about as a true a statement as you can get with the liberal mindset right now. Why I thought it was funny is it's actually a cartoon of Lucy and Linus, and there's captioning above and below it, and it's Lucy holding Linus and basically doing the usual shaking in shirt like she always does to her little brother, and it says, Trump rounded up all the blacks and gays and Mexicans and shot them, and it's your fault for voting for him, and Linus shrieks, when did he do that? And she's like, not yet, but I know he will. That's how I feel when I'm dealing with liberals right now, because no matter what he does, he's the devil incarnate. It doesn't matter what he does, what he says, everything that he's doing is because he wants to round up all the gays, all the African Americans, and the Hispanics, and he wants to shoot every last one of them. And I basically
it's not just him. I mean, it's not just him. It's any of us, anybody. Even if you don't agree with him on like 90% of what he does, if you are to the right and if you still claim conservatism or you still dare be GOP, then you are actually worse than him because you're enabling it. And even if you don't agree with it, you've allowed it. And it's all the blood is on your hands. And I'm just so sick of that crap. It's so ridiculous.
I mean, it's just dumb to the point of being completely just stupid. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot for the last couple of weeks, and every time I see them have the reactions that they have to anything going on with Trump, and they start talking about how much I'm a Nazi or I'm this or I'm that because I'm not trying to burn him at the stake, they're going to make me vote for the man in 2020 whether I want to do it or not, just so I can watch their heads explode. And that's honestly really how I feel right now. And the funny thing is, for all of them that are sitting around and screaming, well, you can't vote for him, he'll be impeached by then, so you want Mike Pence as president? No, that's not going to happen because we're going to invalidate the entire election. How exactly are you going to do that, Skippy? There's no federal mechanism to invalidate an election in this country. We don't have a reset button. Once the vote's been ratified, that's the vote. Period. End of sentence. All you can do is go through each person line by line, person by person, and put them up for impeachment and try to get them removed. You know, when was the last time anybody was actually impeached and removed from office? Because Clinton wasn't. So even if Trump gets impeached, how can you guarantee that he's going to be removed? Because I don't think Congress is going to vote for his censure. Now they might, if the libs win the midterms in 2018. But I got to tell you, I don't really think that's going to happen.
I mean, if you would have asked me, well, when we did talk about this 3-6 months ago, it sure was kind of looking at that. All they had to do was not be insane. It's the same thing they had to do in 2016. All they had to do was not be insane to at least gain some traction. All they had to do was not be insane. They are ramping it up to an unsustainable level on a daily basis now, screeching from the rooftops about every little thing they possibly can, even going so far, like you said earlier, as to saying that this is not a time to be civil. Civil is what gives us concentration camps, and they're calling the border situation baby concentration camps. They have any damn clue what that means. And so they're just ramping it up, and they're always on at an 11. And I just can't help but sit here and laugh and go, holy crap, I didn't thought y'all could get any crazier, but man, was I wrong. And they just continue to keep this. And it, like I said, it's not sustainable. This level is not sustainable that they're at. And they're going to start falling apart at the seams. They, quite frankly, kind of already have. And so there are a lot of races that were once, 6 months ago, 8 months ago in the new resist, and blue wave kind of hope, early on in the Trump presidency that seemed to it was going to really be able to gain some traction or do something is just crumbling. I mean, there's no way because your ordinary everyday people, even ones that don't like Trump, cannot take any of that seriously. And they know it's crazy. They see it as crazy. I mean, I've got people that I know that are pretty diehard liberals that are just appalled at what the national leftist, how that perception is and what they are putting forth and what they are presenting as in the name of America and in the name of the Democrats and in the name of leftism and of, compassion and children and women. And they're just the Maxine Waters thing. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And they just can't believe it. I mean, it's every day by these blue checks or some politician, some representative in some form or fashion that is putting forth things that if you flipped it, if you just reverse that statement and you put an R behind their name, they would lose their ever-loving minds. And they do so over things that Republicans say or conservatives say or, conservative commentators or radio shows hosts or whatever say that are so benign on a regular basis. And it was one of these things where I'm going, okay, so civility is dead, onward America, don't take their crap anymore, storm the street with blowtorches and make them hide in their homes. And then on the other hand, they're like, oh my God, how dare you use the wrong pronoun? I can't even. I need my safe space. And then they go and cry and they make everybody get you fired and they harass your family for weeks. So, they just can't help themselves. They are too, and I'm just going to say it, batshit. And I don't know that there's anything that can stop the Republicans from keeping Congress at this point. I mean, I know there will be some things that are kind of close, but the way it's looking and the way this is going and some of the early races that they thought that these people weren't going to have, the way they're polling and they thought that they weren't going to do well and they thought they were going to, have to slink away in the mud, they're outperforming. And it just seems like a foregone conclusion at this point. So at this point, whereas 3 months ago, I would have said I'd be surprised if there weren't at least a decent amount of changeover. I'll say at this point, I'll be surprised if we don't actually pick up some seats. I know we'll lose a few too, but it won't surprise me if we pick some up and we retain control of Congress.
I think it's going to be a net gain. I do think we will probably lose at least a few seats in Congress. Honestly, where I've been paying a lot of attention and where I've been paying close attention to some folks that are even more political junkies than I am is the Senate, because everybody's been sweating the Senate. And with as crazy as the left is getting right now, they're not sweating the Senate nearly as much as they were. And if you look at the general ballot numbers, and this is where it gets really interesting. Right now, general ballot, in order for the party that is not in power, because you got to remember, right now we are the party that's in power. That means anybody that's actually in that party, a lot of people for the first time in the state, local, and everywhere else, they're facing what is considered a wind at your face election instead of a wind at your back election, because historically speaking, the party that's in power typically loses a portion of the power, at least, during the midterms. But if you look at the generic ballots right now, in order for that trend to hold true, the Democrats would have to be at least within a plus 3 to 5 margin. They're not. Everything that we're seeing is trending to the point where it looks like this blue wave is going to be more like a blue piddle down somebody's leg.
No, that's kind of funny. It's also not really a image I need.
Just saying, you know. Oh, so anything else you want to talk about as we start winding things down here? We got about 7-ish minutes left.
So there's this person who works for, writes for, I'm not really sure, something with Samantha Bee, just a really lovely person. Her name is Ashley Nicole Black, and she tweeted out yesterday, "Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Civility is a tool of white supremacy. Okay, cool. Bye." Civility is a tool of white supremacy. So there was one person that had that gets a lot of credit for for the civil rights movement and actually gave his life to it, who speaks on civility quite a few times, and his name and in favor of it, and actually demanding it of the people who were in his movement. And his name was Martin Luther King Jr. So he was a tool of white supremacy. That sounds cool.
Wow. So Martin Luther King was a tool of white supremacists.
I mean, basically, because he preached civility. So, yeah. I don't know how that's going to work out for them. But they then pushed it, of course, on, Samantha Bee's show today. And so then it just got picked up by everybody. I happened to see it yesterday before it kind of went bonkers. But it's that kind of crap. I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about before when I went on my little rant. It's stuff like that. Like you can't sit here and talk to people this way and condescend them and actually make up definitions for things and completely reorganize ideas in a way that suit you for your purposes. It's like today the whole abolish SCOTUS was trending as a hashtag because they didn't like some of the rulings, and they're still on the stolen seat from Merrick Garland. And there's no such thing as a stolen seat. And in fact, if you really want to talk about a stolen seat, let's go back to Bork. But we call that getting borked. It's not stolen. You got borked. So, and he actually didn't even get far enough to get borked. So, it's just, this kind of talk, this kind of air, this kind of treatment of people, even for people that have no real love for Trump and no real love for Republicans, they're just not going to sit by with this. They're sick of it. And I don't know how they're so impossibly stupid that they can't tell that this is how they ended up with Trump in the first place. I mean, come on, be at least just a teensy weensy bit self-aware, but they can't because they are so enwrapped in their own egos and patting themselves on the back and in their own, what they think is supreme intellect. And they are so right. Don't you know? I mean, they are superior. And they are correct, and they are just, and they are the moral ones. So they can't possibly look at it as anything but that. So all they're doing is helping you, schooling you, educating you, and trying to show you the light. They're not being utterly rude and condescending when they tell people to go punch you in the face if they think you're a Nazi. I mean, it's just outrageous. And everyday normals look at this and go, you done lost your mind.
Yeah, it was funny because everybody used to laugh and joke in the beginning when they started talking about punch a Nazi in the face. It's not so funny anymore when now everybody that disagrees with them is a Nazi.
Right, which is what we said would happen. Pretty soon, everyone that disagrees will be a Nazi. And back to this abolish SCOTUS thing. This has been the latest trend, too. So when some part of our system doesn't work in the way that they want it to, where they don't get their desired outcome, they want to just get rid of it. So get rid of the Electoral College, get rid of SCOTUS, get rid of executive orders, get rid of the filibuster. I mean, it goes on and on and on what they do. Anytime that the outcome does not have, is not their desired outcome, does not go the way they want to overturn it and get rid of it and pretend like this kind of stuff never happens so that they can control it. And then they have the audacity to call us fascists.
Yeah, well, that's just part of what drives me crazy. These people are using these words that they don't understand. They don't even realize that when it really comes down to it, Nazi and fascist is basically the same thing. Because Nazi was Germany, fascist was Italy. They basically had the same concepts, all of which sprang from the left, not the right.
Oh, but don't you know all those charts that get put up in get put in textbooks and then get put up on things like, if you go Google it, what's on the Wikipedia, they show it as being on the right. Now, they show a little bit of it being on the left too, but mostly they show it as a right-leaning tendency, and so that must be what it is, right? We can ignore the actual implications of it and what leads to it and the policies that are enacted and how they are. And we could actually look at those things and how those do not coincide in any way, shape, or form with what most of the right stands for, which is life, liberty, and pretty much just life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is the basic foundation with, some Judeo-Christian kind of woven in things in there. But the fascist stuff is the farthest thing from that. It's so much closer to socialism. And but see, they've seen it on these charts, and that's what they were taught. And that's the way that the academic left has intended it. So they get to say whatever words they want without actually dissecting the ideology and decide that it's a rightist, it's a right-wing thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean that goes back to the same concept of we have the left all day, every day trying to say that it's the party switched in the 60s because LBJ passed the Civil Rights Act. So because all the Republicans of that time frame banded together with LBJ and they passed the Civil Rights Act, all of a sudden all the Democrats magically decided they were going to be Republicans, and it all happened in like 30 seconds. It was just the weirdest thing ever, man. It's like they went to bed Democrats, they woke up Republicans, and there was suddenly this instantaneous shift. Never mind the fact that everything that has smacked of any type of fascism in this country has happened while a Democrat was in office, or the frontrunners to the Democrats, the Democratic Republican Party, when they went after the Indian land and they kicked them off of it. They were the ones in power. When they did the internment camps, they were the ones in power. Everything that has ever happened that pretty much has been bad in this country, except for Watergate, has happened under a Democrat. But nobody talks about that because the party's changed somehow, magically.
Yeah, magically they changed to benefit a more rose-colored viewpoint for the Democrats, to shine the light on them as being the always good party. They conveniently keep switching.
Speaking of rose-colored glasses and rose-colored viewpoints, parting shot, Michael Ian Black is writing a book. Apparently the working title for the book is A Better Man. Not sure Michael Ian Black should be anywhere near that particular book.
I saw that today, and he's been killing me all week.
So, just for fun, if you're interested, the Loftus Party actually put up a caption this tweet. You can go find it on the Loftus Party feed on Twitter. I'm not going to tell you mine because it's not fit for radio, but I made Michael snort coffee, so it was a win. Just saying. All right, so on that note, we are out. I am actually probably going to skip the America Off the Rails show tonight because I'm trying to get caught up on all these election things that I've missed. And you guys know everything that's going on. I was going to talk about the Supreme Court decisions and everything else, but I actually have the episode from Thursday that never got a chance to actually run on its own feed. So I'm going to put that up tonight. And I actually am working on a couple of things that I'll probably put up here in just a second about some of the results. Like we already have our governor sticking her nose into 788, so I have something I'm about to post about that. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night for a live episode. You can catch the replay of the one on Thursday if you missed it. It'll be up on the America Off the Rails feed here in just a bit. But we're going to get out of here. We'll be back Thursday. I don't know. For this being a Tuesday, it already feels like it should be Thursday. It's been a really long week already. I'm just like looking at everything going, how the hell is it only Tuesday?
Yeah, I feel like it should be Thursday. Me too. I've had that kind of week.
But on that note, we are going to get out of here. We will see you guys on Thursday. I will be back tomorrow night. Don't forget, we start off everything tomorrow night with the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show right here on KLRN Radio at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern. As far as I know, I think Jess plans on being back with POV tomorrow night, so you can catch that at 8 Eastern. Or if for some reason she's not live, or if you want to catch her later, you can always come and hang out on the Spark Radio Network. We have the Politobuddy Show. I do believe we actually have Beaker on with us tomorrow night, so that should be fun. And that's going to do it for this particular episode. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I'm starting to keep up with all the poll information that's coming in. I'm trying to see who's going to wind up being in the GOP runoff, because I will probably have my party affiliation changed again, because I was talking to Jen about this off the air. I will not bore you guys with it, but I'm really disappointed with what the Libertarian Party seems to be trying to do in the state after fighting to get on the ballot for years. I may bring that up in another show. But we're out. Have a good night. Take care. God bless.